Good morning. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be taking notes on the vertex. So we know how to identify the vertex, and just a reminder, so we have it written down somewhere for when we take our quizzes or whatever. The way we identify our vertex is it's either the highest or the lowest point of our parabola. So you can hear it be called a turning point. That's how we find our vertex. And we're used to looking at it on graphs, but today we're going to be looking at it with equations. And there's two different ways you can see the vertex with an equation. The first is called vertex form. And vertex form is very straightforward. It's in the form f of x equals a times x minus h squared plus k. And the way you find your vertex, it's always going to be in the form h comma k. So for example, say that we had y equals 2 times x plus 3 squared minus 2. Our vertex, to get this h, notice how this is a negative and this is a positive. We always want to switch this sign. So if I'm looking at here, I have a positive 3. So I want to switch that to become a negative 3. I have a positive k and a positive k. I don't switch this at all. So it's negative 2. So the vertex form actually gives you the vertex. Whatever your h value is, you switch it. I like to think it escapes the parentheses, so it has to change its sign. So it goes from positive 3 to negative 3. This one's already on the outside of its parentheses, so it stays at negative 2. So vertex form gives you the vertex. The next form is the tricky form where you have to do math, and that is called standard form. And this is what we see our quadratics in a lot more. And it's in the form f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And this a, b, and c, they're just different values. And we're going to use this standard form a lot this unit. So make sure that you're very careful to realize a is next to x squared, b is next to x, and c is the value without a variable. So for our vertex, what we have to do is we have to do two different things. To find our x coordinate, so the first part of our vertex, we have x equals negative b divided by 2 times a. And this is just the formula to find the x coordinate. That's the same every single time. To find our y coordinate, because remember, vertex is always at x comma y, our y equals whatever we get when we plug in the x to our equation. And what I mean by that is it's when we plug it back in to standard form. So this seems very like, what are you talking about? Well, let's look at it in action. So for our first example, for this one, say that we had y equals x squared plus 4x minus 2. Well, when I'm looking at this, this has a b and an a. There's so many different variables, but I can find those variables using standard form. My a is always going to be in front of the x squared, like we were saying. My b in front of the x, and my c is the last one. So looking at our standard form here, A is in front, but there's nothing in front. Remember, mathematicians are lazy, and if they don't have to write a number, they're not going to. It's assumed to be a 1 in front because 1 times anything is just that anything. So our A value is 1. B is next to the X. So my B value is 4. And then my C value is without the variable. So my C is -2. And I would practice writing these out because being able to identify them is going to be super handy next week. So we have our A, our B, and our C. Now we got to find our X. For the X coordinate, so we look up here, it's -B. So it's negative times 4 divided by 2 times A. And our A here is 1. So we can either put this in the calculator or do the math on our own. So negative times a positive 4 gives me -4. And then 2 times 1 gives me 2. All right, now I divide. -4 divided by 2 is going to give me -2. And that's the X value of my vertex. Now I have to find the Y. And remember, for the Y, we plug our X value back into our original equation. So we have, instead of putting X squared, we have -2 squared plus 4 times X. Instead of that X, we're writing -2, and then -2. So -2 squared would be 4, -8 minus 2, and that would give us -6. So I just did that in my head. You could also use a calculator. That's totally fine. So I have my answer now. My answer, my X value is -2, and my Y is -6. We're going to do this one more time. So one more example, and then you're going to do a bunch of problems to try to get it on your own. So for our second example, say we had f of x, remember f of x is the same thing as y, equals 2x squared minus 8x minus 1. So I'm going to go a little bit faster on this one. So my A is 2. My B is -8. And my C is -1. So to find my X, I plug it into -B over 2A. So I have -B. So my B is -8 divided by 2 times my A is 2. And the reason I'm writing the bottom in parentheses is because if you put this into your calculator, you need to make sure everything on the bottom is in parentheses. So I want you to get into the habit of thinking like a calculator. So my top, I have a negative times a negative. That gives me +8. 2 times 2 gives me 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. That's my X value. To find my Y value, plug it in. 2 times 2 squared minus 8 times 2 minus 1, and that would give me -9. So my answer here is 2, -9. So again, vertex form looks like this. It gives you the vertex. Standard form looks like this. You have to find the vertex. One last thing I want to point out is, say if you get something like y equals x squared minus 8. That's still in standard form. It's just missing something. And what you do if you're missing something is you put a 0. So in this case, I have a equals 1 because it's that value that's hidden. But that b, oops, I changed the colors, sorry. But that b value, that x, isn't there. So B equals 0 because there is no X value. And then the C would be -8. And you would plug it in and do the same exact thing. Just be careful if there's anything missing. So we're going to do some practice. Make sure you're asking questions. Y'all got this.